Welcome once again for the session on soil, which is chapter 9 of class 7 science NCERT textbook. We have covered a lot of topics in our first video, and in this video we'll be talking about the different types of soil. So let us start first by doing a recap of what we have done in the first one. So in the first video we have talked about the soil, how it supports the growth of the plants by holding the roots firmly, and how it helps also to take the water from the soil to the plant. We also talked about weathering. So weathering is nothing but the process of soil formation. It is usually done by breaking down of big huge rocks into small pieces by the action of wind, water, climate, chemicals. And then we talked about soil profile. So there we talked about the a vertical section where different layers of soils were seen. So the topmost part was the O layer, which was the organic matter, which was extremely rich in humus. And then we had the A horizon, which is the topsoil, then the B horizon, then the C horizon, and the last one, which is at the base, is the D horizon, which is the bedrock, which only has the hard and the difficult rock, which are very extremely difficult to even dig with a spade. That is how the water percolates. So today we are going to talk about the various types of soil which are there. In your syllabus mainly there are three types of soils, which are sandy, loamy and clayey soil. If you can see in the image, there is a difference in their colors also. So normally when we talk about soil, we say soil is brown in color. That is what we have learned in the art classes also. But that brown also has different shade according to the climatic condition of that place, according to the place that they are in, the vegetation which is there near to us, whether it is near to the river or not, whether it has good rainfall or not, what is the temperature of that place. So all these things will decide the color of the soil which is there. So if you can see, these are the different types of soil. Please go through the colors, because these colors are going to be really helpful for you in the next slides. So let us see that the type of soil depends on the amount of sand and clay from the parent rock. So when the parent rock, that is a big rock, with the effect of weathering, when it is breaking down into small pieces and coming down through the riverbeds and through the mountains, when it is coming down, then the soil which is formed will have a different composition of sand and clay into it, and this different composition results in different types of soil. So apart from the sand and the clay, it is also going to have certain organisms, bacteria, earthworm, and mixture of all these things will depend the kind of soil it will make. So majorly there are three kinds of soil. You will have sand, clay and loamy soil. Silt is near to loamy, but it is far more better than loamy. So if you see in this image, you can see the size of the grain which is there inside, the size of the granule, the size of the sand particle, the clay particle or the loam particle which is there. The particle size is different. So if you see in sand, the particle size is a little bigger, and in the clayey soil it is quite smaller than the sandy soil. You also notice the space which is there between them. So if you see, the bigger the particle, the more is the space. This we will talk about in the third video regarding the space which is there between the particle and how does it impact the soil. So let us go further and talk about the sandy soil. So these are the definitions. So sandy soil is a soil which contains a greater portion of big particles. That is what we have seen right now. Then loamy soil will be in large amount, and it has fine particles in optimum proportion. So it is going to have sand, it is going to have clay, it is going to have humus, but everything in proper proportion. Then you have clay soil, where the soil has very high proportion of fine particles. So they're absolutely fine. Like loamy will be a mixture, it will be somewhere in between the big and the small, so medium one. But the clay is going to be really small particles. Down the image you see the color which is there. So sandy is what you see in the desert. So that's actually sand. Here we are going to talk about soil. So there is a difference between sand and sandy soil. Sand is only going to have sand in it, nothing else is there. But in sandy soil you are going to have sand plus a little amount of clay but the percentage of clay is going to be absolutely less. Then you are going to have humus because it's a type of soil. So sandy soil means the percentage of sand is more. Clay soil means the percentage of clay is more, and that is how it is the soil. But all the soils are going to have everything. Then you have, so according to the things that we have discussed, I told you have to be very, very careful about the color. So here, try to identify the various types of soils which are there in these images. So we have number 1, 2, 3 and 4. But we have studied only 3 types of soil. So which is this fourth one? That is something we will study a little later. You also can try, see it is the darkest. But we did not study any dark soil till now. If it is dark, that means it is going to have very less sand into it, very less clay also into it, but more loamy soil into it, plus a lot of dead organic matter is going to be present. So according to the look, I think the dark one is the most fertile one. If you see the first one, very, very clear which one it is. The third one, very, very clear which one it is. The third one you also must have seen near the beaches, how it is, when the water goes back, the sea water goes back and it dries. You must have seen it in salt pans also. So when is this happening? So try to identify the soils and write the answers in the comment box. Then you have the first one. Now we'll study all the soils in detail. So the first one is the sandy soil. It has a gritty structure. Gritty means it is a little rough to touch. It's not very smooth. It's a little rough to touch. And it is 85 to 100% sand. It is formed from weathered rocks, it is limestone and granite. Now rocks are also of different types. And different types of rocks will make different types of soil according to the places they are coming from. So sand is basically made from limestone and granite. This you must have, just a thing, like when you go to Rajasthan, you must have seen there's a lot of sand over there, and the homes or the palaces or the monuments which are there are also made up of sandstone. And the sandstone is a type of stone which is because of compression of sand over the years. So it's thousands of years compression happens and the sandstone is formed. But here at this place, limestone breaks down and forms sand. So that is how it is used. Then you have waterlogging. So waterlogging is very rare. So the moment you put a drop of water or you put a bucket of water in sand, you will see it goes down. It percolates. It doesn't store the water. So the sand is not going to absorb the water. It will just let the water flow. Now, to be on the very lighter side, when you don't want to listen to a teacher, or when you don't want to listen to a friend or a parent's advice, what do? The information goes from one ear and comes out from the other ear without any filtration, right? Without any absorption over here. The same thing happens in the sandy soil. So the water just passes through. There is no absorption at all. The water and feeding of plants is needed regularly. So the plants which are growing in sandy soil will need a lot of fertilizer and a lot of watering, because the nutrients will keep on draining away very easily because of the percolation rate. And they tend to stick together when they are wet. So you must have observed this when you go to a beach and you put your feet near that, it sticks to your feet. Now the next one is the clayey soil. Now this is the heaviest of three soils. Now what do you mean by heaviest? Heaviest means it is going to absorb the maximum water. Because it holds a lot of water into it, that is why it is heaviest. Like with this theory, the sandy one is going to be the lightest. Okay, so clayey is the heaviest one. It has fine particles and it has very few spaces. So earlier we have seen the images which were there. In that, the clay particles were extremely small, and that is why the space between them was also extremely small. That is why they were fine particles with very little airspace. So air circulation is not going to be there in clayey soil. Then it drains very poorly. Draining means it doesn't let the water pass through that easily. The water is going to accumulate on clay. So it is going to absorb a little, then it is going to accumulate. So it forms very lumpy. So if you touch clay, it's going to be lumpy. It's like your dough, your flour dough. And it is sticky when it is very wet. It sticks to your footwear and tools in the garden. It feels smooth. So the texture difference between clayey and sandy is huge. So So the way sandy is gritty, this is absolutely smooth and very heavy to cultivate. Then it consists of 50% of clay particles. So please remember the percentage of clay and sand particles in the respective soils. It is very rich in calcium, potassium and magnesium. It is slow draining because it is having very less spaces, so it is not allowing the water to pass through it, and that is why it leads to logging, water logging, accumulation of water. Then you have loamy soil. So this loamy soil is the mixture. So we studied about sandy and loamy, sandy and clay. So this one is a mixture. It will have mixture of clay and sand and humus. So it is smooth and it has smooth and powdery texture. It is very fertile and loose. So it is the best soil to grow your plants in. The spaces are smaller. So sandy is having large spaces. The spaces are smaller than sandy, but they are bigger than clay. Okay, that is why it has optimum percolation rate also. It contains very small rock particles. It contains less air than the sandy particle, and it absorbs more water than the clay particle. Then you have the next one, that is a silt soil. So this one was a dark one that we were talking about. So this is the fourth one, the fourth soil, which is again very fertile. It has finer particles. They are finer than sand and feels very smooth and silky. It is brown to black in color. So when you must have gone to the, if you have gone to a nursery to visit, to get some plants, to buy some plants, and you have had a talk with gardener, you will see that they use the silt soil because it's very, very fertile. It is actually found near the deltas. So alluvial soil, in your SS you must have studied all these things. So silt soil is present over there. It is very similar to loam soil but contains smaller ratios of both sand and clay particles. It retains water well but may drain slowly depending on the exact clay, silt, sand composition. So all these sands that the soils that we are studying, it all depends on the percentage of sand and clay which is present in them plus the humus. That is why we add external fertilizers, we add external manure, organic manures, so that the soil becomes more fertile. So this, after studying these four types of soil, now we go to the differences between them. So I will not be covering the differences between all types of soil. You all can try for that. But let us see clayey and sandy soil. So if you see the first one, extremely easy. The clayey ones are having fine particles, sandy are having bigger particles. Then because they are fine, they will be tightly packed, and sandy is going to be loosely packed. So if they are loosely packed, that means the spaces are more. And if the spaces are more, water retention capacity is very, very less. While in clayey soil, the water retention capacity is going to be very high. If the water retention capacity is high, that means the water cannot retain very quickly because it's going to retain it. So it is not going to drain very quickly. While in sandy, it's completely draining. Then clay is heavy. I told you the reason why it is going to be heavy because it is going to absorb the water. While in sandy, it is very light in weight. In clay, very less air is trapped because the pores between the particle space is very less. While in sandy, more air is trapped. Clay is going to be very rich in humus because it's sticky, it's wet, it is lumpy. So all the dead organic matter is going to very easily mix into it. While sandy soil is not going to be very rich in humus. So like this, you can also find differences between sandy and loamy, clayey and loamy and silt. So try writing all the differences. Try making notes for all these. Try to go to your garden and check which kind of soil do you have. Go to the paved area and see which kind of soil is there near the roadside. And go to if your school has a beautiful garden, please go to that garden and talk to the gardener and get to know which kind of soil is it. So try to find the soil which is more fertile. And even when you are going out somewhere, you're going to a different city or a state or a country, try to observe the soil which is there and see why and understand why it is so different. And all the crops don't grow in all the soils. So why is that? Why? All these questions should be coming to your mind. How come like we have pots made up of clay? So why clay? Why not sand? Why not silt? So all these questions you should be having in your mind. In the next session, in the next video, we are going to talk about the properties of soil. So all these questions will be answered then. Till then, if you have any question, you can write in the comment box and I will get back to you. So thanks a lot for listening. Please subscribe, like, share and comment this video. Thank you.